All right, and good day, everyone. And this is just a reaction to the Socceroos versus the USA match that just happened. And unfortunately, the Aussies do go down to nil as two goals in the first half was able to see the US through. The first goal coming from an own goal, unfortunately, from Cam Burgess. Um, it starts off with Balogun finding some space on the left wing, and burst of speed beats the fullback and puts in a cross, which is unfortunately Burgess couldn't deal with as he gets his foot stuck in the mud, and puts in an own goal. And then the second goal comes from a bit of a set piece routine, a very close free kick on the edge of the box on the right wing. And the ball is played to Ream at the top of the box, who fires in a shot, gets blocked, is deflected, and unfortunately it falls into the path of Freeman, who is able to beat Beach to the ball and heads it in pretty comfortably. And it was it was a VAR review. Unfortunately, it was Balogun that was offside, not Freeman. So USA do score there. And the first half was a tale of two very, very different halves. In the first half, USA were completely dominant. The press was something that we couldn't deal with very well, and it looked like the boys were very, very nervous. And I think it speaks to maybe the inexperience, speaks to the youth of the team. They were not able to handle the heat of the pressing. The pressing pressure from the US, and the lack of technical quality was being displayed as we tried to play from the back a little bit more bravely this game compared to Turkey, which surprised me. I feel like we probably should have stuck to our guns a little bit more and played a bit more defensively, a bit more structured. But because of that, we were playing it pretty high-ish up, with a back five, and our fullbacks were being drawn out pretty consistently, allowing runners behind the lines on the wings to receive the ball. And credit to the US, they were really aggressive with their runs, constantly sending runs on either wing, and they found them pretty consistently with those through balls. And it put so much pressure onto the defense, and unfortunately, it was just too much to handle, and mistakes were happening. And unfortunately, that's where the two goals comes from. The first goal with the run on the left, and then the second goal, the run on the right, which draws a foul. So yeah, it was really, really frustrating to watch that first half. I think tactically we probably got it wrong. You sort of have to you lean into your identity. You want to lean into your defensive identity, and that's something that we didn't really do. We were caught pressing at times and chasing the ball. Just got to be more structured. Got to be more disciplined. But the second half was completely different. It started off with the substitutions, most notably. Iran Kunda and Metcalf, who scored in the first goal, started on the bench, and they come on in the second half, and they were an immediate impact. Iran Kunda, obviously, with his blistering pace, one of the quickest players probably on in the world, was a threat. He found himself in behind the lines with some through balls by Metcalf. So that was nice to see, and unfortunately couldn't really get anything out of it. But Metcalf, his ability to play the first time balls, it was really, really excellent, and his link up play was something that was missing in the first half. And then obviously the other substitution was Garia coming on, for, I couldn't remember who it was, but Popovich opted to keep that back five, which I think, when you're chasing the game, I think you gotta maybe change up a little bit. Put some more pressure on the American defense by changing it up a bit. Maybe put more numbers into the midfield. Maybe put an extra number into the forward line, but maybe playing like a 4-4-2 or a 4-5-1 or something like that, 4-2-1-3. But instead we stuck with the 5-4-1, which at the very least in the second half, we were a lot more defensively solid. We were a lot more aggressive with our challenges. We played with a lot more fire and a lot more bravery. And you could definitely see that the confidence of the teams was starting to grow. And then the penultimate substitution that came from Matthew Leckie comes off, and hopefully he's all right. I think he might have done his hamstring there, but comes on Volpate, who I don't know much about, but he comes on and he was an absolute star. He was definitely probably our player of the match. His dribbling ability was really good to watch. He was beating his man regularly, beating 2 or 3 players at times. He was playing in Irukunda regularly. He was linking up play. He was just a pure playmaker. And unfortunately, his very first involvement in the game was playing Irukunda behind the lines and receiving the ball in the box from a cutback from Irukunda. And unfortunately, his shot goes over the bar. But it was something that was missing. We were not putting any pressure on the American defense the whole first half. And then as soon as he comes on, we were making chances after chance. Our press was starting to be activated. We were winning second balls consistently, and we kept the pace up. We probably won that second half in terms of momentum, in terms of possession. Unfortunately, we didn't score. So, that's something left to be desired. But man, what if we start with these players in the first half, have players that have the quality to put pressure on the American defense? Who knows? Maybe, we don't go down 2-0 and it's still a 0 or draw and all to play for, and America doesn't have to sit back and relax and keep hold of a pretty comfortable lead the whole second half. But yeah, we go down 0-2, but comforting signs in the second half makes me believe that, we can get something out of this group stage. We can go into the next game against Paraguay, who have, we'll see the game against Turkey, how they fare, if it was just a blip against America, whether, they were just shell-shocked, whether they were just ultimately too nervous to play some proper football. But yeah, confident signs in the second half. We definitely took it to the host nation, and a performance that left a lot to be desired. But hopefully, there's a lot of learnings for Tony Popovich going into the last group stage game, where if we do win, we'll be firmly into the next stage. We'll definitely get out of groups. A draw wouldn't be too bad either, as it'll give us 4 points, and 4 points generally gets you in a good spot. And then if we do draw, goal difference of 0, a clean 0, it could mean something, but obviously you do want to win to confirm your pathway out of the group stages, I guess. But with this 2-0 win, I think America will solidify themselves as the first seed of this group pretty comfortably, with a pretty large goal difference now sitting at 5, I believe. So even if they lose their last game, I think they'll be pretty comfortable heading out of this group as the first seed. But yeah, look, unfortunate, disappointing results, and really disappointing first half. But the second half was exciting, exhilarating, great football. Talking about the second half, it just had everything. You had bodies flying everywhere, tempers were flaring, yellow cards were being issued left and right for both teams. Even the referee was going down with a cramp and had to take a bit of pickle juice to recover there. So it was one of the most entertaining halves of football that I've seen of recent times. One of the most entertaining 0-0 draws of a half. But unfortunately, no goals to show for it from the Socceroo's point of view. So yeah, fingers crossed that we can go into the next game next week, and let's see if we can't get out of this group.